Morning watch nerds. Erebus meaning god of darkness. I suppose that doesn't have a lot to do with watches, but a great brand name all the same. Origin meaning the brand's first watch. That said, this is the reduced size, so I suppose technically it isn't. If you're a watch fan, I suspect you know who Erebus's owners are, and that's Jody from Just One More Watch and his partner in business, Steve. Technically, this makes the brand Australian, although like most micro brands, the watches are produced in China, which in reality isn't a bad thing. Now before we go any further, although this is an original design, I admit it is a tad generic, but what utility dive watch isn't?
I remember when Gary over at I Like Watches had his own watch produced. There were some physical elements of that watch that were very good, although a few not so good, well in my opinion anyway. Where I think he got it really wrong was the branding, and I said that when I reviewed it. In contrast to that, I think Jody has got it spot on, although as far as the watch is concerned, I do have a few minor gripes.
I always struggle whether to tell you the price of the watch at the start or the end of my video, but today I thought I'd let you know at the beginning. In English money, one of these is £199 or 240 American dollars, but you have to build in VAT and postage, which increases the price to about £267. Whether or not you believe this to be good value is down to you, so please continue to watch this video. What I will say though is, it's great when a top watch reviewer and enthusiast produces a watch because they know exactly what the market wants. Well, almost. And welcome to my unpaid and unsponsored review of the Erebus Origin 38.
The watch comes in this rather nice two-piece travel case. It's always nice to get something you can use, and what's more, the packaging is your first impression. Inside is a 2-year warranty card and a cleaning cloth.
And this is my watch of the day. It's another recent purchase and another diver. It's the Ixtal Mini Turtle. Now the original version was 41mm, this being the 38, well 38.4 to be exact. I actually think Jody could have made it easier for himself by just releasing a 39 or a 40. Anyway, the lug width is 20mm, the depth is 12.8mm, which includes a flat sapphire crystal with AR coating, and the lug to lug is 44.4mm. Once adjusted to fit my 17cm wrist, it weighs in about 144 grams. Now in my opinion, the watch wears more like a 39 than 38.
Jody decided to put the automatic NH35 movement inside this, which in his words were, "It's all any dive watch really needs," and he's probably right. However, I would have been tempted to go for the Miyota 9015 and charge a bit extra, and this would have enabled him to make the watch a little bit slimmer. That said, this is a proper tool diver, so I don't suppose it matters that much. It's a 3Hz movement that ticks away at 21,600 beats per hour. Hacks, hand winds, is very robust, very reliable, and if regulated correctly can be surprisingly accurate. Apparently the factory checked to see if each movement is running within specification before it leaves. But as specification on this particular movement is -20 to +40 seconds a day, that doesn't really impress me that much. To be fair though, from experience they normally arrive running far more accurately than that. Let's see what this one looks like on the time grapher.
And there we are, this all looks very good. An excellent beat error. The amplitude may look low, but NH35 movements normally have low amplitudes. And the rate is excellent. The 6.5mm screw down crown is signed, very nicely knurled, and despite the chunky crown guards, it's easy to use. Like all NH35 movements, adjustment is a piece of cake, and engagement is okay, but it is a tad gritty. Probably my least favourite part of the watch is its case, because I find it a little bit angular for my taste. That said, it's nicely curved and it does fit well to the back of my wrist. It's all brushed, including a transitional chamfer, and to a reasonable standard. However, I've never been a great fan of vertical brushing on the sides. To be fair though, this is pretty much the norm on most tool divers. The screw down case back aids the watch's 200 metres of claim water resistance, and I just love that deep etched logo. At this point, I should say hello to Pete, a dog walking friend of mine and a massive fan of the channel. He hates deep-edged casebacks like this, but I'm not in his camp. Around the outside is some basic information. Now this model comes in a plethora of colours. Too many in my opinion. I'm a retired retailer and I was always told that you need enough options to maximise sales, but if you have too many, you may end up with stock issues. I think 5 would have been enough. I'll leave a link to the website though. As you can see, this has got the blue sand texture dial, and although I bought this new from a private eBay seller, and it was the only one available, it is the colour I probably would have opted for, although I would have been tempted by the silver version with the silver bezel. The dial is typical of a utilitarian dive watch, as it's easily legible. Under the 12 o'clock is the Erebus logo, which I happen to like very much, and below that it reads Erebus. Above the date window at 6 o'clock it reads Origin and the water resistance. Now the frame date window isn't loomed, but that isn't something that particularly bothers me, especially as I rarely even bother to set it. As you can see, there is a minute track on the outer part of the dial, which then leads into large painted blocked indices. The chunky fence post hands make it easy to read at a glance, but I believe the hands and indices may have looked better if they had a darker surround. Now the lume on this thing is excellent. It's BGW9 and there's gallons of the stuff. Here is a speeded up 15-minute degradation clip alongside my Phoebus narwhal, which in my collection has always been the benchmark. The Lume's unidirectional 120 click bezel has a colour matched ceramic insert, but I'm not sure if a black one may have looked better. I'm not totally sure. The action is perfect with very little backplay or bounce, but from a personal standpoint I would have liked a little bit more resistance. Most importantly, it all lines up. Now if on the off chance you were ever to use this for diving, I don't think you'd be disappointed. Anyway, have a little listen. Onto the bracelet and clasp then. The original on the 41mm version, despite being very good, had reports of the underside edge being a little bit sharp, but that's been addressed on this, as it's got a little bit of a chamfer. Now that makes this bracelet extremely comfortable. Like the case, it's fully brushed, and I like the fact Jodie went for a raised H-link bracelet rather than the default oyster style. Now it tapers down from 20mm to 16mm, then back up to 18mm for the clasp. Now it's got nicely engineered screw pins for adjustment, but this bracelet isn't particularly long, so if your wrist is bigger than say 7.5 inches, you may want to consider the 41mm version. The end link fits really well to the lugs, and it does have quick release spring bars for easy strap changes. My only complaint is that although it has female end links, the middle link doesn't drop straight down, and that does increase the lug to lug a little. I'm really happy the mill clasp has got an on the fly adjustment system, as this always makes getting a good fit so much easier. Admittedly, it is a little bit long, but I think that's just the price you have to pay. As you can see, it's nicely brushed and it's signed with the Erebus logo. I think both the bracelet and the clasp on this watch are excellent, and companies such as Seiko should start taking heed and perhaps follow suit. It's only fitting that I now have a moans and niggles section. There isn't much, but I really would have preferred horizontal brushing on the case sides. I think I would have preferred a dark surround to the hands and the indices, and I'm surprised Jodie didn't pick up on that end link. Other than those three relatively minor points, I think this is a very good tool diver, especially as it does what it says on the can. I love the legibility, the build quality is very good, the lume amazing, but most of all, I love that bracelet and clasp. To be honest, you're going to struggle to find better value for money when it comes to a microbrand diver. Now some watches knock you off your feet when you first get them, then you end up getting a little bit bored with them. Whereas although I believe this one is a bit generic, in time I may learn to appreciate it for what it is, and I might even form a bond. We'll have to see, won't we? Now that brings me to the end of this review, so if you've enjoyed it, please click on the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, leave your comments below, and enjoy the rest of your day.